Guys, what is going on? We are back. It is Thursday. The Lightning Kid MMA Beginner's Guide. I am Marcos, the Lightning Kid Estrada. I'm happy to be back, guys. This video series has really been a lot of work. It's been a really good challenge. Kudos and shout out to people who make content for a living. It is a lot of work, right? A lot of stuff that a lot of behind the scenes things, a lot of trial and error, a lot of editing and stuff like that. Like, it's bananas, honestly. And for people who do it for a living, crazy, right? It's not all as easy as it seems, right? And so, outside of just the amount of work and trying to figure out, my process with this thing, I just wasn't feeling myself. I've recently had some loss in the family. 2020 itself has created a lot of loss for me in other ways, and it goes in cycles. It comes back around, and some days are better than others. But for people who deal with depression, it's a lot more than just feeling sad, right? And I'm not going to try and diagnose anybody. I'm not going to try and say that this is the cure all for all your problems, but I can only really speak from experiences and what I know, right? And I know that if you're dealing with depression and you don't have proper things set in place to deal and cope with that depression, it will eat you up. And I know that because I've gotten pretty close to getting eaten up completely by it, and thank the Lord I've never dealt with like suicide attempt or anything, but I've gone through some darkness to be where I'm at, right? And if it wasn't for jujitsu, and the grace of God together, right, in my life, I definitely wouldn't be here standing before you right now. And a lot of people say, jiu-jitsu saved my life. And, I wouldn't say jiu-jitsu saved my life, but it definitely helped me sustain life until I started feeling better again, right? Um, and the reason is it's not because jiu-jitsu is some magical activity, but because it encompasses a lot of things that are positive and things that are going to benefit you mentally and physically as you deal with these feelings or thoughts that you're having, right? Because in some cases, depression is a chemical imbalance. There is something going on with your mind or your brain or your body chemistry that requires some kind of medication or some kind of professional assistance, right? So there are those people who deal with that stuff. And there are other people on the other side of the spectrum who just kind of deal with it just because of, honestly, the society that we live in, the pressures of society. And I think that people in my age group, people who are kind of like mid 80s to, late 90s, right, who grew up with technology and social media and all that kind of stuff, like, I think it does heavily affect us in ways that we don't even know yet, right? Like in ways that we don't even think about. And what I did was I just wanted to give an example, right? A real life example of how jujitsu, right, in my case, has kind of been my thing, right? And this could be boxing for you. It could be Muay Thai. It could be Krav Maga, right? It could be whatever it is that quote unquote, pushes that button or, melts your butter, as they say in sales, right? So I Googled it. Tips with dealing with depression. Tips for dealing with depression. And this is the list that came out. Set goals, socialize, exercise, get adequate sleep, cultivate a new hobby, stop being a perfectionist, and faith, right? So automatically, right off the top of the list, I look at these things and how they can help cope with depression, and how jujitsu is kind of covers all of those things, right? Like exercise, setting goals, eating right, getting adequate sleep, right? All of those things are kind of things that go out the window when we're in the thick of it, right? Personally, I've dealt with really terrible depression, and my destructive habit of choice is Netflix. I'll lay in bed for days. Days. Not talking to anybody, only getting out of bed to eat, go to the bathroom, and that's it. And while there are a lot of other destructive ways of coping with depression, I don't think that that is any better, right? Because what you're doing is you're robbing yourself of kind of the things that will pull you out of it, right? By isolating yourself and kind of cutting yourself off from the world, right? You're not allowing light to shine inward, right? It's only kind of, it's just all darkness and your storm cloud and everything's locked up tight, right? And so setting goals. Jiu-jitsu has a lot of goals, right? There's a lot of things that you could set. Become a black belt, which is a giant goal, 8 to 10 year commitment, right? But for someone who's dealing with depression, that is a crazy goal that is overwhelming and that will really only force you to kind of stay inside, right? Like, so, it could be something really small. Like for me, when I was in the thick of it and I started going back to jiu-jitsu, my only goal for that day was going to class. Somehow managing to get myself out of bed, throw my gi in my bag, put it in my car, get into the parking lot and through the door without turning around and going back to bed. And if I did that, that was a good day, right? And when you're struggling with depression, like you know that having one thing on your list can be a lot. It can be daunting, right? And if you don't struggle with depression right now, you're like, what the heck are you talking about? But for people who've been in it, right, in the thick of it, in the middle of the ugliness, it's tough. And if it weren't for jiu-jitsu, I could have chosen a lot of more destructive things. I could have spent a lot more time on things that weren't going to progress me forward, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today, right? Adequate sleep, eating better, those are byproducts of jiu-jitsu, right? If you have gone through a full jiu-jitsu workout, an hour and a half, and you did some rolls afterwards, and you were going with some tough guys, and you really pushed the pace, you know what it feels like to want to come home and just take a nap, right? And the more you push yourself, the better your sleep is going to get. The quality is going to increase. The more quality sleep you get, the better off your brain's going to be. Your brain chemistry is going to be able to reset. Your body can heal, right? And the cycle continues, right? And again, if you're consistently getting into the gym, if you're consistently putting out, energy, eventually it's going to be hard to make the wrong decision. You're going to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should cut back on the honey buns and the Monster Energy drinks, and maybe I should eat some oatmeal with blueberries in it because I got training in an hour, and I'm tired of feeling like garbage on the mat, right? Socializing. We're social beings, right? We were created that way to not be isolated and alone for too long, right? We need socialization. We need people to talk to and to pour into and to trade information with and just interact, right? And jiu-jitsu being a community-based art form, right? You can't go into a gym and just hide. Can't put your headphones in, go to the squat rack and not talk to anybody, right? Like you have to shake hands at least with the guy in front of you, right? Because if not, then it's you're really really out of place, right? And so you got to force yourself to do these things, right? You got to do them when you don't feel like them. And if you had a one-stop shop, right, if you had somewhere where you can kind of knock it all out in one spot, I would say that that's an efficient approach, right? And so if you're dealing with depression, if you're in the thick of it and you can't get out of the funk, right? You gotta put yourself into an environment, right? You gotta give yourself a chance to progress and feel better and pull yourself out of that headspace, right? Like think about something completely different for just a little bit of time. It's gonna ease up the pressure you have on all the other thoughts that you're starting to pile on, right? And so the last two, stop being a perfectionist and have faith, right? Everybody says the corny line, trust the process. Oh, the sun will come out tomorrow, everything happens for a reason, right? They throw all of these, phrases at you and expect you to feel better, right? But if you don't have an actual plan of action to support it, nothing's going to happen. And so, jiu-jitsu, it's really, you want to be a perfectionist, and in life it's hard to be a perfectionist, but if I'm a perfectionist about my fundamentals, if I'm a perfectionist about what I'm trying to accomplish, I can make progress in the gym. And everybody knows what it's like when you hit that sweep that you've been trying for all week, right? When you finally lock in that choke on that one partner who always whoops on you, right? Like You know what that's like, and that begins to like work outward, right? And so you have to start really small. You have to have faith that, you know what, if I do this now, it's gonna benefit me later, right? If I do this tomorrow, if I do this week over week, eventually things are gonna turn around. And so, yeah, guys, if you're out there right now and you're struggling with depression and you don't know what to do, look for some martial arts training. If you're in martial arts training and you're struggling with depression, don't stop showing up to class. I don't care if you have to show up to class and get tapped 1,000 times. I don't care if you show up to class and it's the worst display of jiu-jitsu you've ever put out in your life. As long as you're there, the environment, your instructor, your training partners are going to be there to kind of like help lift you up without you even knowing about it, without you even having to ask them about it, right? And by doing that and having a place to be and having people who know your name and having people who ask you questions about how you're doing, right? Like having all of those things are what's going to retroactively get you out of your depression, right? Because if you wait until your depression goes away and then you're going to go to class, trust me, you'll spend a lot more time off the mat than you will on the mat. And yeah, I mean, guys, days are getting shorter. The sun's going to go away. If you're in the Midwest, you're no stranger to how bad winters get. If you don't have things in place, if you don't take your vitamins, if you don't get sleep right, if you don't do these things, you're not going to have a good time. So set yourself up, put yourself in a position to execute on these things, right? So that when the bad days come, because they will, right? And when the storms start coming down, you got some things in place to kind of hold you steady, right? Like I said, guys, I've dealt with this stuff. And the positivity that comes from learning and training, it's very empowering. It's such a powerful feeling when you accomplish the goal of just showing up, right? Getting in the door. Is something as little as that can help really change the direction you're heading in, right? So know that you're not alone, guys. If you ever need to talk, please message me, guys. Like whatever it is you're going through, I'd love to help and be a part of the community. And it's I'm doing this for you guys. I'm doing this for the people who who want to be a part of it, because I'll end with this quote, right? And the reason, again, that kind of like helped support my reason for doing this is the people who need this stuff the most, right? Jiu-jitsu and training and MMA and mindset and all this stuff haven't even signed up yet, right? The people who are in it now, the people who are addicted now, we're lifers, right? You don't have to convince us that jiu-jitsu is the best, right? You don't have to convince us that we need to train. But the people out there, the mass majority who haven't signed up yet, haven't done so because they're fill in the blank. They're nervous. They don't know anybody who does it. They don't know anywhere that offers it, right? And so the more we spread it, the more we push this out, the more people can realize that this is the real deal. That some kind of martial arts training will benefit your life in more ways than you even know possible, right? And so without going too far over, guys, I'm glad to be back. Lightning Kid out. We'll see you next time.